Right, well, we are ready to get this day on the road. A warm welcome to everybody. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone in this room here today, everyone tuning in from around the world, and a special mention to all the Aussies packed in Jared and Arlene's living room in Altona in Melbourne. I think there's about 28 of them in there. It's great to have you with us. It is truly my honor and privilege to stand before you today to begin the celebration of Laurie's life, and that's exactly what it is, a celebration. We've got an hour and 15 minutes together today, but my friends, a dour affair this is not. Why am I up here? Well, as you might be able to tell from my appearance as a gypsy or sailor, I didn't exactly follow the straight and narrow. I preferred the scenic route, and with one or two bends and twists and probably a few too many questionable choices along the way. But no matter what I did, no matter where life took me, there was always one constant: Laurie. Laurie always had my back every single time. I was thinking about it yesterday, all these little examples. So take the time back in school when I told her about my brilliant idea to go on a gap year after school. Laurie, as you will see today, ever the adventurer, the countless stories from her travels all around the world, she was all for it. She even convinced and advocated with Des. And it was a great plan. Thank you, Mom, and off I went. But the one gap year turned into two gap years. And then the two became three. The 2 gap years became 3. But eventually, I came home, slightly more tanned, but arguably no wiser. Laurie didn't bat an eye. She was proud. And without a doubt, she had my back every step of the way. Then there was the time when I waltzed into the front door with these tattoos on my arm and almost gave Des a coronary on the spot. But there was Laurie, cool as ever, saying, well, it's not what I would have picked, but you're such a creative person, Andy, so it's okay. She didn't really have to say anything. She always had my back, and she had it there again. So today, Laurie, why I'm standing here, it's my turn. I've got yours. Today, we all have your back. We've made sure that today is as bright and bold as you always were. I mean, Laurie, right? Laurie. Would you have wanted us to gather at a place that meant the world to you? Well, here we are. Would you have wanted a cheeky little amarula be given out to the masses? Thank you, Barbara. Cheers. Would you have wanted everybody dressed in bright, vibrant colors, perfectly in line with your signature style? Just look around. And Mom, there's even a piano in the corner. So in the timeless words of Fred Astaire, which truly embodies Laurie's spirit, let's face the music and dance. But before we dive into all the wonderful stories and memories, let's take a step back in Laurie's journey where it all began. So although Laurie was Australian by birth, she loved and embraced her life in South Africa. So much so that there were times when we wondered whether the old girl was even Australian at all. An example of one such moment happened just a few weeks ago with my friend Jack over there during a rugby championship match when the Springboks were playing Australia. I got this message on WhatsApp. "Are you watching us drill the Aussies? Bloody brilliant," she says. So we had a good laugh at that, to which I replied, "Mom, you do know you are in fact Australian." She fired back, "Yeah, mate, best Sheila money can buy." And oh, was she right. She was so right. And at that moment, I thought, there it is. There's that farm girl from Conda that we all know. So, in honor of the farm girl from Conda, first up, we have some lovely tributes from Laurie's family in Australia.
I feel very lucky to have spent a bit more time with Laurie in the last few years than I certainly did as a kid, not just in Australia, but of course in South Africa, which has been a home for many, many decades. The first trip I did there was incredibly memorable for a variety of reasons, not just to spend time at Matumi, but having the plan cooked up by Andy Martin that we would make it a surprise that I was in the country. So when we got to Matumi, I popped out the back of Andy's Ranger, much to Laurie and Des's surprise, and it was met with quite a bit of shock, a lot of swearing, and a little bit more shock. But yeah, it was really lovely, and I'll obviously hold that memory even dearer now. But it's hard to put into words the positives about Laurie, and it's kind of futile because I think to know her is to love every part of her. And yeah, she's obviously going to be very sorely missed. I feel very privileged to be at least half a Dunstan and incredibly honoured to have her as my auntie. We'll miss you, Laurie.
G'day, I'm Jared. I'm one of the nephews. Just thought I'd share a couple of quick memories about our dear aunt. Yeah, probably the earliest memory I've actually got of Laurie is her giving me some speaking lessons when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Let me know that I mumbled a little bit too much, needed to open my mouth, and I think the terminology she used that I needed to round my vowels a little bit better. So probably good advice, but maybe a little bit wasted on an Aussie, but anyway. But certainly my best memory, I think, of Laurie was the trip that the boys and I had over to South Africa in 2010 for the Soccer World Cup, and for all the great sightseeing and all the soccer and whatnot that we saw, which was fantastic. Best thing that I took out of it, and I said that at the time and I still maintain now, is just getting to know my auntie a little bit better, and you know, understanding that her and Brenda had a fair bit in common, but I didn't realise how much she was like Kay as well, with that sort of caring, nurturing side. So that was something I really took out of it and was really, really special to me. So I'm going to hold that pretty close, and yeah, we're going to miss you.
I've been fortunate enough to visit my beautiful auntie Laurie and wonderful family in South Africa on 3 occasions. The first trip, Julie and I were due to arrive just in time for Laurie's 50th. Our last stop before heading to South Africa was Athens, and so while there, we picked up a gift that to me perfectly represented Laurie. A statue of Athena Nike, the goddess of victory in any field including art, music and athletics. To me, you were a goddess, Laurie. Loving, generous, warm, positive, and not to mention beautiful. And your life was one big victory, creating an incredible family, your achievements in music and sport, and your many travels and adventures. You were an inspiration and will truly be missed. Love you, Laurie.
Our deepest condolences to Des, Dave and Rochelle, Andy and T, Kay, Brenda and Max for the devastating loss of dear Laurie. I remember many wonderful times with Laurie. Times with Laurie are always exciting. You knew when Laurie was around, something good was going to happen, something fun, something spontaneous. That's what Laurie was to us, just a spontaneous gift from God. She was wonderful. Laurie, you were a young woman and I was just a toddler when you expanded your wings and left. Your siblings stayed in rural Victoria and rural WA, but that wasn't enough for you. Melbourne and Sydney, and of course later London, continental Europe, some wonderful adventures there, and then of course you met Des, and you continued travelling and wandering. Matumi and Joburg, Trafalgar, all those wonderful places. And I can't help but think that now you've had a wonderful life of wandering. You're now at rest with Frankie and Gladys, and I dearly hope that you're at peace. God bless Laurie.
We're here to celebrate the life of our beloved sister and auntie, Lorraine Frances Martin, commonly known as Laurie, but there was nothing common about our Laurie. We had a wonderful upbringing living on a farm, and Laurie was a special part of that. We had a very fortunate life there and helped Dad as we got older. I was the oldest and fairly slow. Then Brenda arrived. Then Laurie, who was a gentle, placid little girl. Brenda was a gregarious Energizer bunny. Then Max, and he had a different personality again. Laurie was born on the 12th of July 1950, and there was only 5.5 years between us all. As we got older, we went and worked in Hamilton. Laurie had an office job, Brenda worked in the bank, and I worked in a chemist shop. We played badminton, and as you can imagine, Laurie was really good at it, and she won the Victorian singles and the Victorian doubles in the same year, which was a pretty incredible effort to win your state title. That's what she did. Now, boyfriends came along, of course, and some of them we were impressed with, some of them we weren't impressed. We weren't too impressed with them, put it that way. But they were all different, and fortunately, Laurie went on an overseas trip with Louise, and the first place they stopped was South Africa, and she happened to meet this lovely country doctor called Des Martin. Hallelujah, we finally got a good one. And so Des was loved by all of us as soon as we met him. He was a gorgeous character, a lovely, lovely man. He fitted in well with John and Leo and Wendy and all of us. We were a good crew. They were married in 1978 in Conda and then settled in Skagen in the lowveld of South Africa. Their beautiful nephews, our beautiful nephews, David and Andrew. David was born in 1982 and Andrew was born in 1986. Wherever Laurie went, she had friends everywhere, because to know her was to love her. She was so happy and caring and loving, sincere and non-judgmental. She had great Melbourne friends, Sharon and Bob, Maud, Jules, Annette and Lulu. Also dear Val, otherwise known as Pelks. And Val and Laurie had been friends for well over 50 years. They worked together in Hamilton, and they used to have legendary parties in Hamilton. I think the police may have been called a couple of times, but they were legendary, their parties. Val had many trips to South Africa to spend time with Laurie and Des. Darling Laurie, you brightened up any room you entered, and you'll be sadly missed by so many friends and family. John and I, and all of us, send our loving thoughts and prayers to our beloved Des, David, Rochelle and boys, Andy and Teresa, Michael and Dawn, Rob and Lynette and families. We were so fortunate and forever grateful and blessed to have you as our sister, and for all your gentle, loving, positive enthusiasm. We have so many incredible memories of all the good times, the fun, frivolity and singing. Heaven has gained a musical angel. You'll always be in our hearts and our thoughts, and we will love you forever, our beautiful sister. Rest in peace, darling Laurie.
It is with a very heavy heart and a great deal of sadness that I present this tribute to my beautiful, vivacious, talented and fun-loving sister. Our family bond is very strong, and we have a hole in our hearts that will never ever heal. I am proud to say that the full complement of 28 Dunstan family members are all gathered here tonight, right now, at our son's place in Melbourne. Lorraine, Laurie, Lur, even Sloppy Pup. Yep, in her early days, she didn't worry too much about her appearance and often wore unironed dresses and cardigans to her work. One day I came across her on my way to work and she had pulled her dress on inside out. This was back in the day when dresses were lined with individual facings and the inside fabric looked much more faded than the outside. She was mortified and couldn't wait to get to work to make a swift change. This was definitely a turning point and the catalyst for an upgrade in her dress code. She was the talented one in the family, exceptional at sport, amazing singer, beautiful pianist, and won all the prizes in our Highland dancing days. The musical genes came from our dad, so it was no wonder she was his favourite. When we were young girls, our mum decided to get piano lessons for both of us. The musical genes obviously missed me, because after 4 weeks I was still struggling with the scales, whilst my kid sister was banging out nice boppy tunes all by ear. Consequently, I cracked it and had a very short piano career, whilst Laurie went ahead to achieve greatness and entertain crowds like no one else I know. She had the ability to light up a room. Her gift of music and the infectious way she would entertain and connect with the audience drew admirers like bees around a honey pot. We have had many musical evenings in Oz when the family were all together, and our friends have enjoyed a very special one at a local winery where Des did what he does best and he compared the whole show. Our friends were in awe of this talented duo, and many of them will be paying their respects and watching this live stream tonight. Many years later, Laurie bought a keyboard to play whilst in Australia, and she left it at our place and suggested I might think about getting piano lessons again. Well, I thought about this long and hard and decided to have a crack. I thought my teacher was a bit ordinary, and I was aware that I was a remedial student. However, I plugged away for 12 months and could proudly bang out many tunes to my surprise. On Laurie's next visit, she insisted on listening to me play. I was very nervous, but did my best rendition of Amazing Grace and Waltzing Matilda. And when I had finished, she said, "Brenda, you are so good with all your sewing, all your entertaining, and all your socialising. It doesn't matter that you're not going to nail this." Well, Laurie, darling, I was shattered. As you all know, Laurie met Des in the Lowveld on the first leg of an overseas trip back in 1976. It was love at first sight, and he wasn't going to let her go. He called her his little Aussie call girl. She continued her travels, but he popped up in London a couple of months later, and the rest is history. Meanwhile, back in Oz, we were all heartbroken as we realised that our beloved little sister was never coming back to live there. She'd had lots of boyfriends. Couldn't she find a nice Aussie bloke to fall in love with? It wasn't until 1978, when Desi Boy came out to marry her, that we could fully understand why she had fallen in love with this intelligent, charming, charismatic young doctor with a wicked sense of humour. Thank you, Des, for loving and caring for our sister, and thank you from all of us for the life you shared together. You two were soulmates. You complemented each other so beautifully, and the love just shone through. We Dunstans have been privileged to share such a close bond, and we must give thanks to our parents for their simple and their loving guidance. The times we have spent together, whether it be your place or ours, or travelling together, have always been such a joy. Sadly, we never got to go on a houseboat cruise down the Murray River in October this year. Laurie, I know I broke your doll, and I know you always beat me at tennis and golf, and I know I was envious of your musical talent. But across all those miles, you've always been a huge part of my life and my family's life. The closeness we shared will forever be treasured. You have left a footprint on my heart. I'm so privileged to be your sister, and I know I will never be the same again. Rest in peace, darling, and thank you for the music.
Okay, the loss of our beautiful and much loved Laurie is devastating for all of us. However, she's left us with a lasting legacy of happiness and memories. These are some of our earlier school day experiences. The three girls all participated in Scottish Highland dancing, which was fairly popular in those days. Kay and Brenda were fairly successful in regular placings and a few wins. However, Laurie excelled in almost every competition she entered. Mum and Dad had to buy a larger trophy cabinet for her. She had so many trophies and sashes. After Kay and Brenda left home to start work, Laurie and I were attending Hayward High School, where we made many lifelong friendships and developed and continue on to this day. Many have visited Laurie and Des over the years. Our school always ran a Gilbert and Sullivan production annually, which was produced by two very talented teachers. On the second year onwards, Laurie always had the lead female role. She stayed in contact with the music teacher for many years after. He obviously recognised her immense talent and had sometimes wondered, and we've sometimes wondered where she may have got had there been a show such as Australia's Got Talent around that time. Laurie was a natural pianist, as we all know. She actually taught herself and played by ear. She could also read music as well, but she could do many variations on the piano. After seeing Winifred Atwell, who was a renowned British ragtime pianist, we saw her in concert, and the very next day we were home and Lorraine was tinkering around on the piano for an hour or so and play some of her tunes. She learnt to play one called the Black and White Rag, which was considered to be a very hard tune to play, and it was quite hard to play and quite fast. But everyone said how Winifred Atwell was gifted, but Lorraine played her songs within an hour of playing around, and she was also gifted, I would say. Winifred Atwell had sold about 20 million records at this time. Wendy, my wife, she had a couple of records of hers, she tells me. On starting work in our nearest hometown, which was Hamilton, for a few years, Laurie, she worked there for a while, then she moved to Sydney, where she hoped to pursue a music career a bit. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned, so she moved back to Melbourne for a while before deciding to travel the world. During this time, she met Des, and as they say, the rest is history. We have all adored Des from day one, as he was a perfect match, and we couldn't have asked for anyone better to marry her sister. I felt the same way about John and Leo, my other two brother-in-laws. Geographically, we were a fair distance apart, but our hearts were always very close, and we were frequently in contact. We were always close. Lorraine and Des made frequent visits to Australia, which everyone looked forward to and cherished, and we appreciated all the effort they put in this. Some of us always visited them as well, and including Mum and Dad, before Dad passed away. Laurie and Des sometimes flew direct to Perth, because we live in Perth, which is on the opposite side of Australia to Melbourne, and we really appreciated this. I think Des really liked our West Australian beer. The most memorable trip was in 2017 when Laurie and Des hired a motorhome so we could drive to Victoria, and I took our caravan, which is self-sufficient, and they had the motorhome, and we played the golf on the world's longest golf course, which is the Nullarbor Golf Links, which extends for over a length of 1,500 kilometres. It was so awesome playing golf and free camping in the bush. I remember Des saying one night, "I can't believe we're having a gourmet meal in the middle of nowhere in the bush," in his accent. It sounded so wonderful. At one place we got back to the car park, I think it was the Nullarbor station actually, and we got there and Lorraine said, "Oh my goodness, I've left my handbag behind." Anyway, she left it on the fairway, and we said, "Oh well," and there was a sign there which warned people because of eagles and crows who pick up anything and fly away with it, not to leave any bags or anything in the open. So we panicked a bit for a few minutes, and Lorraine went back and I said, "I think you left it on the last hole there." Anyway, she walked back and luckily it was still there because it contained their passports and the keys to the hire vehicle and everything. So yeah, it could have been a drama, but it was quite funny and sort of laughed about it afterwards. When we got to South Australia, we met up with Kay and John, who were in their caravan as well, so we were all together, and we went and spent a few days on the banks of the Murray River. Laurie came over 2 years ago and we stayed down at Lakes Entrance on the eastern part of Victoria for a week, and with Brenda and Leo and Kay and John and all of us together, and Wendy and myself, which has become rather a special time now. So we really enjoyed that, not really realising it was going to be the last time we would see her. Anyway, that's all I want to say now. So just farewell to my beautiful sister, and we'll love and remember you forever. God bless you. Thank you.
I think just before I begin, just on behalf of the family, just thank you to everyone, the messages, the phone calls, the thoughts. We really do appreciate it. It's really helped us through the last few weeks. So thank you. All right, got the tissues ready. Got my son on tissue duty just in case. So, how would I describe my mom? There are countless things I could say, and we could be here for hours talking about them. But I think the best way to capture her spirit is with the words of our dear family friend John Smuts, who said, "Laurie had charity towards all and malice towards none." Lorraine Frances Dunstan was the third born of 4 siblings, with the older sisters Kay and Brenda and younger brother Max, as you've seen in the videos. Her parents, Frankie and Gladys, were farmers in rural Victoria. Farming was tough. It was just the 2 of them on the farm. It was hard, back-breaking work in order to provide for the family. The Dunstan siblings did not grow up with money, but what they lacked in financial resources was more than made up by being brought up in a special and loving home. These early years instilled her values and her character, which Mom took with her for the rest of her life. Being hardworking, mentally tough, a bit stubborn at times, but also caring and nurturing, fun and exciting, and with a sense of adventure. As Brenda said, Frankie was the musical parent, and the musical gene took root early with Mum, who fell in love with the piano at a young age. She was a natural. Mom was also an acclaimed Highland dancer in her teen years, winning many awards and trophies. Music and dance was in her blood, and it made her happy. Mom actually got engaged after school to a local policeman who apparently only had one eye. Yeah, Laurie was engaged to a one-eyed policeman. But as I said, Mom had a sense of adventure, and she was itching to ditch the small-town life. She broke off the engagement and hit the bright lights of Melbourne and Sydney. This is where she did some modelling in her early 20s. Then the adventure went international, and Mom went and lived and worked in London for a period. She was young and free, travelling across Europe, a far cry from the farm girl from Victoria. Then, with her friend Lou, she travelled to South Africa. It was during her trip to South Africa that she met a bloke called Tony in Johannesburg. Now, the girls wanted to explore the Lowveld in Kruger Park. So Tony called up his mate, Des, who lived in the Lowveld, and suggested that the girls head across and stay with him for a few days and show them around. I can only imagine how that phone call went. Desi, I have two young, good-looking Aussie birds that need a place to stay and for someone to show them around the Lowveld. And Desi, you're welcome. So that's how Mum and Dad met, and sparks flew from day one. Their romance blossomed, even through initial periods of maintaining a long-distance relationship. One would imagine that a relationship with a dad of 3 kids might have seemed a bit too much to take on for the average person. Not for Mom. She's a tough nut, remember? My parents got married on the 7th of January 1978 at a small but beautiful ceremony in Conda, right across the road from the famous Conda pub, which was Frankie's favourite watering hole, with many a legendary story beginning after a few pots at the pub. I can only imagine the early years after getting married would have been a period of adjustment for Mom, who now had 3 stepchildren, Kathy, Michael and Robert. But as the years went by, Laurie grew to love them as if they were her own. There are many ways to describe Andrew's and my upbringing, but the words that stand out the most are loved and nurtured. Mom totes it on us boys. Having a mom like Laurie is something we took for granted growing up. But as I reflect on it now, we didn't know how lucky we were. The school drop-offs and pickups, the cutely packed school lunches, trips to cricket, hockey, soccer and rugby games, and homemade birthday cakes made in the shape of racing cars or the Ninja Turtles. Mom was the softie, and if we couldn't get our way with Dad, we would sneak it in the back door via Mom. My memories of growing up at 4 Nigel Avenue in Joburg are packed with fun times in our sprawling garden, playing garden cricket, tennis, our birthday parties, summer braais, and of course the beautiful sounds of Mom's piano playing wafting through the house. She played the piano every day, and I still have vivid memories of completing my homework in my room while listening to Mom's beautiful piano pieces in the background. I took it for granted back then. I don't take those memories for granted now. For years, Mom was the choir master at Linksfield Primary School. Linksfield's choir was pretty ordinary before Laurie took over. She quickly transformed the choir into a professional, high-energy outfit that often won regional competitions. Being in the choir was something to be proud of at Linksfield. I'm reminded of a humorous story during the auditions when I was first trying out for the choir. Desperate not to appear to show any nepotism, Mom cut me from the choir team. You haven't experienced true embarrassment until your own mother cuts you from the school team. Needless to say, Mom felt awful and got me back in the choir. On merit, may I add. Mom's absolute favourite night of the year, as well as ours, was the annual Carols at the Martins. Carols at the Martins became an institution, and young and old looked forward to it. As the years went by, more and more youngies started attending, which my mom loved. Who doesn't enjoy bellowing out 12 days of Christmas while charged on beer, wine, and Amarula? The last 13 years at Matumi were some of the happiest years of Mom and Dad's life. Returning to the area they first met, rekindling old friendships and forming new ones. Mom loved pottering around the garden. She would often send us photos of the beautiful flowering plants and succulents, and of the amazing view from the garden over the valley. Matumi, as well as our house at the coast at Trafalgar, were Mom's happy places. One of the great joys of my life was watching Mom being a grandmother to Liam. She absolutely loved Liam and doted over him in the same way she did to us all those years ago. She was always up for playtime, or reading a book, or being adventurous with him. Sometimes Liam would jump into their bed early in the morning for a snuggle, and Mom was always more than happy to reciprocate. Liam is going to miss his nana so much. When we told Mom earlier this year that we were going to be welcoming our second child, she was absolutely over the moon. She really was so excited, constantly sending us cute little messages. Tragically, our son was born at the same time Mom was breathing the last breaths on earth. Mom never got to meet him. We named our son Phoenix, which seemed fitting. These last few weeks have been the extremes of both joy as well as immense sadness and despair. I'm still battling to come to terms with the passing of Mom, because she had years of life left within her. But maybe this is how it was meant to be. Mom was not going to get old and wither away. Mom would have wanted to leave this world on her own terms, just like she lived it boldly and beautifully. One of my good friends told me that there are no shortcuts to get over grief, only time and happy memories. Well, we've had a lifetime of happy memories, so I guess now it's just time. Rest in peace, my beautiful mother.
Shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine an ever-loving light on me.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Jingle. And count. And then
1, 2, 3, 4. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey!
shall we do one more? We'll do it one more time.
Let's do it very fast.
Okay, all right. Gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey!
Hey! Fantastic.
Hi everyone, for those who don't know me, my name is Teresa. I'd like to start off by saying that when it comes to mothers-in-law, I had the best of the best. I first met Laurie in 2008 when I started dating Andrew. Laurie was so lovely and welcoming from the start. I really admired how open and friendly she was, especially because at the time I was still quite shy. Being so young, only 19 years of age, I just couldn't bring myself to call Laurie, Laurie, despite her best efforts in asking me to do so. So over the years, we progressed from Mrs. Martin to Mrs. M, and eventually, as I got older and felt I was of age to call her by her name with the appropriate respect, we progressed to Laurie. One thing I remember Laurie so fondly by is her amazing skills in the kitchen. I think I took her quite by surprise with how much of a healthy appetite I had and how often I was hungry. I've exchanged there, by the way. Laurie very quickly got used to my eating habits, and it got to the point that when I visited, she would naturally check if I was hungry and let me know what was offered in the fridge. That was something I always appreciated about her. And I always cooked up a stall, and Des too, so much so that I named their home Restaurant Matumi. So many delicious dishes were enjoyed over the years, from spinach pancakes, chocolate mousse, and the very best sponge cake you could ever taste. Safe to say we were spoiled. Another kindness Laurie showed me was her support of my long-standing hobby, my beading. Laurie was always interested in what I'd make next. And in my early years, before I was any good, she would so sweetly accept anything I made and would often wear them with pride. Laurie even got stuck in on a few occasions, making some beaded bracelets for the SPCA and even punting them to her golfing ladies to help raise funds for the SPCA. Laurie even helped me make beaded bracelets for Africa Burn for our trip there, where we gift bracelets to people. Laurie was always keen to help and support me. Then, of course, we have to talk about Laurie and her granddog, Blondie. Laurie loved her little grand dog and would always ask us to pass her Blondie so that she could have a nurse. I thought it was the sweetest thing for her to ask to hold Blondie and call it a nurse as if she was a real baby. A point as a dog mom you can imagine I so appreciated. Laurie was often amused and potentially shocked by the amount of clothing Blondie was accumulating over the years, and particularly enjoyed watching the changing of the pajamas. Some friends, like Sue Pryor, would often get messages with photos of the new outfits, including a golf shirt. This was another act of love I so appreciated from Laurie, showing off her grand dog. Another quick thing I'd like to mention is Laurie's love of what felt like almost all sports. Often I would find out what sport was on by getting a WhatsApp from her in excitement, mentioning the score and asking if we were watching. I find it very cute and endearing. Laurie's memory will live on in so many ways. One of the ways she inspired me was how she never really let much get her down, and if something did, it wasn't for long. Laurie had such zest for life and passion for people, always smiling, always happy, and just so kind. My mom said it, and I couldn't agree more. If you describe Laurie in one word, it would be that she's a legend. How lucky and blessed am I to have known and loved Laurie for 16 years. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Rochelle. I'm David's wife. I'm also one of the daughter-in-laws, obviously. So I just wanted to write this short tribute to Laurie, although there's so much more to say. Sorry, I'll try to keep it together. Sorry, it's the Liam video that got me at the end. Life lessons to learn from my mother-in-law, Laurie. Not caring what anyone thinks of you and just being yourself. Finding the positive in almost every situation. Refusing to be idle. Get up and find something to do. Don't let any situation get you down for long. Call your family. Take lots of photos. Sorry, the nose. Savor every situation with a childlike enthusiasm, as if you're experiencing it for the first time. Give people the benefit of the doubt and don't judge them too harshly or without the full story. Spend money wisely. Half the things you buy you don't need. I've got told that often.
You and me both.
Smile. Laugh a lot. Forgive quickly. Talk through conflicts. Play with your grandchildren and give them little spoils. Find something you love and pour your heart and soul into it, like she did with her music. Love yourself. Don't take life too seriously. Get to know your neighbours. Don't be afraid of having a chat to a stranger. You could meet someone interesting. Her generosity and non-judgmental nature, and loving her children and accepting them just the way they were and are. And the things I'll miss most about Laurie is her presence, her smile, her spontaneous laugh, and her energy, her warm and kind personality. The way she would come out and give us a big warm greeting whenever we arrived from wherever we were to visit. Spoiling us with amazing meals and hospitality when we came to stay with them at Matumi or Trafalgar. The delicious baked goods like hedgehog crunchies and brandy snaps. The random phone calls to catch up. I'm sorry I was never as good at calling you as you were at calling us. The messages and the photos you sent on WhatsApp, keeping us all connected and updated. Your Facebook posts of all the beautiful things you saw and wanted to share, like your beautiful aloes in the winter time. You being a wonderful nana and getting to watch you interact and play with Liam. That for me was always the very best part. When we would come to stay with you, you would tell Liam to come with you, come to your room in the morning with his books so that you could read to him, and it would give Dave and I a chance to sleep in or relax a bit. The sweet little WhatsApp voice notes shared between you and Liam once Liam learned how to send them. They used to have sweet little exchanges. Christmas carols and the joys it would bring everyone. And the fact that you'll never get to meet little Phoenix and give him the awesome gift of being such a loving and caring nana. Laurie, we love you so much, and we're sorry that your time was cut shorter than what it should have been. You still had a lot of life in you, and we are still trying to come to terms with the fact that you are gone. You will leave a gap in our lives which no one can fill. We will grieve your loss and we will miss you, but in your honor and your fashion, we will try to focus on the positives of what you have given us over the years, and to be thankful that we got to have you in our lives for the time that we did. And just a note to Des, I can't imagine what it feels like to lose the love of your life and your reason for living. But I hope you take some comfort in the fact that you made Laurie so happy and that you guys had a wonderful and fulfilling life together.
Debbie, if maybe you'd like to start making your way up here. A bit of background, the Schlosser and Martin families share a long, beautiful history together. Laurie was truly blessed to have you as part of our lives, all the way back in Johannesburg, all those years ago, and then again in the second chapter, the second coming to the Lowveld. So when this first happened, and we were wondering, wow, I wonder who we could ask to speak today, there was no question, Debbie. It was always going to be you. We love you dearly, and we're super grateful that you're here with us today.
Laurie and I met around 1987 when Andrew over there was in a pushchair. We were neighbours in Linksfield, North Johannesburg, and our children all attended Linksfield Primary School. At the time, Laurie was working in Des's mum's skin cream business called Mara J. I got to know her when we did our regular security shift for the community forum, cruising slowly around the suburb in my 33-year-old Beetle, armed with radios, a mess of tangled wires at our feet, and a yellow light flashing on the roof. I'm not sure how much use we were to man or beast, but lots of yakking happened. She told me she grew up on a farm during relatively Spartan times. The haystacks served as her jungle gym. Water was carried inside for their bath time ritual. Every few weeks, a speck of dust on the horizon would bloom into a family friend on a motorbike, and the kids would be taken for a much-anticipated joyride. It was from there that she made her way in the world. She lived life thoroughly as she developed into her own person. Not many stones were left unturned. She was a natural at badminton, tennis and golf, and became a seasoned entertainer and pianist. She was alive, sensitive, enthusiastic, gregarious, hugely talented, and funny. She could be cheeky. She was genuine. And Des, you gave her such great opportunities. I know she was forever appreciative and so thankful. Linksfield Primary School was definitely no private school. It was small and the children were a most interesting mix, which made it fun. Laurie saw the need and formed a school choir. She found suitable music, helped the children to learn to sing, and eventually, when they competed at the Linda Auditorium, Laurie had by then become the conductress. Facing the choir, She conducted with great care and now and again a touch of happy abandon. Her gorgeous long-legged hourglass figure was clad in a short black pleated skirt and an elegant black evening top. I was never sure if it was the singing or the odd twitch of the hips and swish of the pleats which caught the judge's attention. It seemed the whole neighborhood was in the choir. Olivia K. Eddy remembers, and I quote, "She loved us like her own. I was in the school choir even though I could not sing, and even though I was completely out of tune. Laurie kept me in. She just told me to tone it down a bit." Sorry, Dave. said Olivia, "She made me feel included." Year after year, Laurie was involved in the production of most successful school concerts. She gave unstintingly of herself and was loved by staff and children alike. She raised the school to a new level. Together we organised great golf days as fundraisers. She had the know-how and the flair, and I was her right hand. We agreed that I was more of a workhorse, and she was the show horse. But she soon said actually she'd prefer to be called a show pony. Later on, she would travel back to Joburg from the Lowveld to help with nursery school productions. She organised her own choirs. I can remember Bill and Blondie Sears singing heartily to the oldies in the church hall, and her piano recitals and sing-alongs brought much joy to retired folks in their many villages. Her sense of humour was always ready. It was sports day at Linksfield Primary, and Des and Laurie, my husband and I, sat on a rickety wooden grandstand. My daughter Martine, going through a particularly dozy patch at the time, was lined up ready for the sack race. When the gun went off, I noticed she was gazing into space with her back to the finishing line, while the others were already in their orange sacks and jumping away. I shouted, "Move, Martine!" With that, she turned and scrambled into her sack, and with a series of magnificent jumps, as if on a pogo stick, went on to win the race. Laurie stood up and announced to the grandstand, "Oh well, at least you know she'll be good in the sack." That nearly brought the grandstand down. Later on, we worked in a group at King Edward High School tuck shop, where she kept us in stitches with her description of selling food at the cattle sales in Australia. Those stories are not for your consumption. As the years went by, her pub evenings and Christmas carols particularly became part of life, and then extended to that of the next two generations, with the grandchildren of a number of families joining in the fun last Christmas. With Des at her side, she left a meaningful legacy. She was lady captain at Royal Johannesburg Golf Club for a time, a demanding job into which she put a lot of time and energy. Our sons would line up in the Martins' kitchen for their haircuts and later for hair tints, while others munched on wicky wacky cake, hedgehogs, and her lovely Australian sponge cake. At Sun City, Laurie, Des, Deidre and I, trying to be hip, were all flattened by the artificial wave, bikini tops and spectacles reaching the shore before we did. Then there were the birthday parties, the hijinks of the teenage years, and weddings. When Laurie entertained, she made a point of speaking to everyone. She organised a street party for the suburb, a first for Linksfield North, and a great help in fostering good relations. She never forgot her family here and her family back home. Over the 1.5 years while Dieter was ill, they were always there for us. Laurie played the piano at his funeral. She and Des took the load off my hands by offering to host the wake at their home. Much later on, they rallied round my well-being when I moved to the Lowveld and subsequently my own home. What loyal, beautiful friends. The thought of Laurie's suffering was hateful, but that is over now. To Des, Dave, Andy, Rob, and Mike and your families, to Kay, Brenda, Max and yours, my children and I wish you love.
So lastly, I think I just want to extend a few thank yous. David touched on it earlier, but just quickly. To Sue, Andy, Eva, Barbara, and the other golfing girls, thank you for helping with the flowers in the venue today. Your kindness and effort have made today as beautiful and meaningful for Laurie, or as Laurie would have wanted. Michaela, your incredible designs truly encapsulated Laurie's spirit, and thank you for doing that for us. To Rob, Lynette and Kieran, we cannot thank you enough for dropping everything at a moment's notice and rushing down to Trafalgar to be with Des when Laurie went into the ICU. Your presence meant more than words can express. To Mike and Dawn, thank you for opening your home to us for a healing weekend when we returned from the coast. Your warmth and care was exactly what we needed at that time. And to everyone who has reached out, offering support in many ways, be it a shoulder to cry on, a hot meal, a lift to the airport, or simply a kind word or a message. Your love and generosity have been a true comfort to our family, and we thank you. And lastly, thank you all here, everyone here today, especially those that have travelled afar. It truly means the world to us, and we sent Laurie off in style today. So we'd love you all to join us outside for some snacks and refreshments, and to close us out as we stand up and adjourn and make our way outside. We have a beautiful piano recording from Laurie's grandnephew, Michael Pye in Australia. Thank you.